Pitroda to Lord Desai to Amartya Sen. Well, I can go on and on with the list. And you've been Nobel laureates. You brought glory and honor to this country from time to time. And in every crisis of this country, you stood by your roots, from where you went. You have also helped shape our foreign policy in a way many people in India may or may not understand this, but let me take your mind back. Even Indo-US nuclear deal, a very large part of lobbying was done backdoor by the NRIs. Whether it was Sanjay or it was Fobi or it was Chatwal, a number of NRIs were connected with this deal. But for their effort and but for their lobbying with Clinton and numerous other distinguished leaders from the US, it would not have been possible for that deal to go through. And you also promote tourism because you always connect with your roots. You come back every year. Many of you come back even 2 or 3 times in a year. And of course, there was a point of time in history when we felt there was a brain drain. Obviously, there was a lack of opportunity in terms of education. I have 2 children. Both of them went to US to study. Both are graduates of London School of Economics and University of Chicago. But I can also tell you very proudly that many years down the line, they were there, they worked, and both of them have come back. Because India has changed a lot. It has changed phenomenally. Like Excellency said a little while ago, that we have consistently grown despite global meltdown, even in early 2007, 2008, when the world was reeling under a huge economic meltdown, when it was even countries like US didn't have growth more than 2.5%. Europe was in the region of about 3%. We were still managing to put up a growth rate of close to 8.5% to 9%. In fact, for 2008 and 9, we had nearly 9% growth rate. And even with the change of government, our growth rate has continued in the region of 7.5%, even through difficult times. And it makes a great suggestion for many of you to contemplate returning and setting up ventures here, setting up civil society organizations, setting up foundations. Not that you've not been doing. My figures say that even today, the NRIs contribute nearly $1.2 billion in charities and on causes related to philanthropic reasons. And I'm sure in times to come, if I briefly give you the figures, I'll again take your mind back in a little bit of history to just understand, because there are some of you who've been out maybe decades. In 1950, we could produce only about 50 million tons of grains. Today, we're record 300 million tons in 2014. Our foreign exchange reserves were $2 billion in 1950. We touched $300 billion. We had 3,000 megawatts of power. Even up to 51, 52, we reached about 280,000 megawatts of power. We had 15,000 kilometers of highway. We crossed 100,000 kilometers. And of course, the government still has ambitious project of even increasing the pace of building greater highways and even internal roads for the country. Our literacy was bare 12.2% in the 50s. It's moved up to 74%. Average life expectancy, 36%, gone to 65%. But we want to take it to 80% in another 5 years. And lot many other ambitious programs like National Skill Development Mission was launched during the last government, obviously with a very ambitious target of producing 500 million skilled people by 2022. Of course, we have grossly fallen short, but the current government is restructuring that entire format. But I'm sure we still have a target of close to 300 million people who will be skilled. But there are problems which ail this country, and like Excellency Kohli Saab said, we have a huge problem in our farming sector. A very large amount of India's farmers are marginal farmers today. And I think government is contemplating building smart cities, but I would also like to dwell at this point of time that smart cities would not be enough to answer India's problem. Of course, urbanization needs would want smart cities to be built because, after all, it's cities which are drivers of economic growth. But since nearly 76% of India marginals are marginal farmers today, and farming is not a viable option anymore. And if India as a whole has to economically move up, we have to take the rural India as well. We cannot have India living in 4 centuries. At the moment, there are parts of India which live in 18th century, there are parts which live in 19th and 20th century. Therefore, it was mooted quite some time back, and I had the privilege of sharing dais with Kohli Saab some time back when all this was discussed. I think there is also a case for building maybe thousands of smart villages than just building smart cities. Because it is expected that a population of nearly 250 to 300 million is going to move from rural India to urban India, looking for jobs and opportunities. Because a farmer who has 1 hectare of land, he has 3 children. What will he do 10 years from now? They have to move to cities. And there will be chaos in the cities. There will be no jobs. So we have to think in terms of integrated economic hubs in some of the towns and villages of India on which we can plan. I mean, these are some of the suggestions and recommendations I would want to make on this forum. Of course, government has taken certain very good steps in terms of launching few schemes like Make in India to improve the manufacturing capability and so that the Indian consumer has more money in his hand. Also launching Digital India initiative to improve digital literacy, to improve the delivery of services through digital means. And I think we have amongst the largest amount of mobile telephone users in the world today. And with that and Jan Aadhaar and all the bank accounts of millions of people who have opened in the last few months, I think India can become inclusive. There are numerous amount of services where delivery can be done using, even in public health. There are countries like South Africa. I was recently in Cape Town. They run a program on mobile telephony. They call it MAMA scheme, and through which entire tuberculosis program is handled. And I think it's a remarkable initiative. I have given already suggestion to our health minister here in India. So like that, we can, through digital means, make a lot of changes. And India anyway consider an IT superpower. And I think we must make full use of digital initiative in the coming years. Of course, the broadband connectivity has gone to rural India. It has gone to smaller towns. There is a greater degree of consciousness. And most of our people are aware of all this. And of course, maybe some of the previous speakers have touched upon that our defense industry is being indigenized, something that had not happened before. Of course, we have produced Aryabhata, we produced world's fastest cruise missile in Brahmo with Russian collaboration. But this is the first time what is being attempted is now we indigenizing the defense industry. Whether it is modernizing the submarines, or modernizing the cargo vessels for the Navy, or setting up aircraft industry, or even other defense space. I think maybe 5 years from now, you will see companies getting into manufacturing of aircraft to boost our aviation sector. Like auto industry is, of course, being developed beautifully and successfully in India in the last 2 decades. And I'm sure 10 years down the line, we won't have to run to Airbus and other people to buy aircraft. The lot is going to happen here in 10 years' time. And you people have always cooperated with India. You have always stood by us. You have always come back to your roots. And I would recommend that many of you, at least some of your children, because the world is very small, and maybe 2 decades ago there was no interdependence globally in terms of businesses and in terms of trade and commerce. There is large amount of interdependence today. I mean, I have a nephew of mine who runs a very successful company in New York. He runs one of the top 10 public relation companies. But he has an office in London. He has a German wife who lives with us here in India. He has an office in India. He has an office in New York and an office in London as well. So this is what the current world is. And I'm sure in years to come, we'll be able to integrate more and more of you in all the business processes, commercial processes, and country is producing a very enabling environment for you to come back and be our partners here in India. And because it belongs to you, we are very proud of you. With these words, I'd like to conclude. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, after this, we're going to have an open session, and each one of you who has a specific question to ask, we have a whole panel of experts here. You can raise your hand, and the mic will come to you. You can give away your question, and you'll have answer from one of the panelists. Before that happens, I would like to request Sardar Joginder Singh Ji, our former director CBI, to please come and say a few words.
Thank you very much indeed. And as already announced, our next eminent speaker is Sardar Joginder Singh, former director CBI, and prior to that he was IG Police Karnataka, Director General ITBPF, and Director General CISF, and Bureau of Police Research and Development. He is associated with the Society for over a decade, and as the Society provides a common platform to NRIs from all over the world, he helps them to sort out their problems in the legal aspects. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sardar Joginder Singh for his address.
Babu Bhisham Naran Singh Ji, कोहली साहब, नहीं ये इसे थोड़ा सा बोल लीजिए हिंदी तो ये इनका मेरे साथ अंडरस्टैंडिंग था कि आई शुड स्पीक ओनली इन हिंदुस्तानी, हिंदी में बोलूं तो मैंने कहा देयर आर नंबर ऑफ पीपल हु मे नॉट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी वेल, सो आई एम गोइंग टू मिक्स अप ऑल दिस थिंग. कोहली साहब, सर दलवीर सिंह जी, वीरेंद्र सिंह जी, डॉक्टर साहब, Ved Prakash ji, ladies and gentlemen, we are proud of you. I do not know whether you are proud of us or not, but we are proud of you for the way you are done. Nearly 2.7 million, 27 lakh NRIs are spread over 207 countries in the world. I don't think any other nation has people all over the world. Maybe number may run to 10, 20, 30 or so. But yours is definitely larger than many other countries' population. I would say thank you for coming. But leave a few good things here also. I am a great supporter of India, but I am also aware what is wrong with us and how we can do better. I was talking to my friend Ved Prakash ji. India would have gone much, much further, but for a Prime Minister who was my minister, and whom I knew very well. He wouldn't listen to anybody. I mean, he would not act, he would listen all right. The casteism in India is his gift to India. You know, they set up one commission after another, this should go to that caste and all that. Instead of improving the education, the facilities for people to do better, they went only by the caste. I'll give you only one example. Sir Gurinder Singh knows, Babuji knows, we are at a program. You might have heard about Agra. It is a reported case, it is not that something I am making. 12,000 people appeared for graduation examination and 20,000 passed. So that if you have a degree, you get somehow some placement here also. I have to compliment you. You have not reached wherever you are just by talking or by fake degree. I know we were 4 class fellows in Government College Ludhiana. 2 of us wanted to join All India services. I preferred police, another person preferred IAS. 3rd fellow, made fun of us, saying, what do you think you are? I am going to beat all of you, I am going to be one of the richest men of India. The fourth fellow said, I may not be richest man of India, but I will be much better than you of. आप सबसे अच्छी हालत में हिंदुस्तान में होंगे. So our friend Surinder Mohan, he went to England, MA करने के बाद economics में. After 10-15 years I went to Calcutta, he traced me. He said, I want to come and see you. I said, Surinder Mohan, की कर रहे हैं? What are you doing? How did you start? And in India, I'm very sorry to point, at least in some states like mine or my neighboring states, the ultimate is for the parents to buy a SUV or a motorcycle for children, whether they study or not, whether they work or not. This has become the output in some states or so. He said, England is jaake main phatte toye, which means I carried planks, heaviest work which nobody was willing to do amongst the Englishmen. I worked for not 8 hours but 16 hours. I earned enough to pay for my fees, for my stay. At that time, in 60s, you could get only £5 foreign exchange and a ticket to England. His father got him a ticket. Okay, you want to study in UK? Go there. £5 is what is allowed. Please take this £5 and do whatever you want to do in the world. And he is one of the richest men. I won't name him. Name, of course, I already named him. He reached there. It may look easy that so-and-so is put behind poverty and is one of the richest men. But please understand, India has a certain reputation, all due to you. I was invited to Kuwait for Independence Day. My host was an Indian Muslim, Abdul Razak Rahmani. So I asked him in Urdu. I said, Rahmani Sahab, are you a citizen of India? He said, I have been here for 31 years. No question of non-Kuwaiti getting its citizenship. हमारा तो धर्मशाला है, कोई भी आ जाए यहाँ पे. Result is that people are very clear that they have to keep the standard of their own people high, and they will import only those people who are needed for those countries. So imagine a man spends 31 years in country, a Muslim country, himself a Muslim, no question of his being given a passport of those lines. There are only a dozen Indians you can count who, because of their goodwill towards the ruler or helping him, a dozen people have got local passports, otherwise it is nothing. I would also say, ladies and gentlemen, you can take an Indian out of India, but you cannot take India out of Indian, wherever you are here. We have very good people like Bhisham Narayan Singh ji, honest, impeccable. But we have, I was reading yesterday's Tribune, it's amazing how they take the NRIs for succor. I was invited to New York, I went there. So a gentleman became my friend, he had my number. He telephoned to me last week. He said, I have a plot in so-and-so place in Punjab and they are offering me 20,000. I said, what are you talking? 20,000, you don't get even one jhonpada. One hut also. This should not be less than 50 lakhs. And I said, if you need any help, I will not come in between. I am not a dealer or anything. I'll put you in charge of a person whom I know, who will be fairly honest with you. The rest you talk with him. Neither I come in between. My job is to introduce you to him. So have property by all means. There have been cases, at least in Punjab, because India is such a vast country, and it must be happening all over India, where for the sake of NRI's property, people have killed their close relatives, have made various excuses. I would also mention to you, we have still to go a long way. I don't say that we can compare with other countries as yet. Because first of all, it is a vast country. Secondly, opinions differ. Thirdly, geography differs. So one thing which is suitable is not suitable for us. But a few things which can be done have not been done. 7 February 2015, in Maharashtra, an IAS lady came, is tourism. She said you need 140 sanctions to build a hotel in Maharashtra. So you can imagine that who will run it. You have a top industrialist from UK who, after wasting 300 crores after a memorandum of understanding with the state government, could not set up a steel plant. He said 300 crores I can afford. Is as good as loss. So, do it, but be careful of the rules and regulations, be careful of the suckers, be careful of the frauds. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, I was reading in Tribune, a colonel had bought a house in Mohali, near Chandigarh, for crores. And a fake fellow appeared willing to sell it for 30 lakhs. His friend telephoned, he flew, got the whole thing sorted out. And he himself said he would not like to go to the court because it'll mean coming lakhs of rupees and going back. It's better to have your own property and sell it at a reasonable price than this is in here. Welcome by all means. I would only say, be careful. All are not cheats, all are not gods, all are not honest. That only you have to judge. A vast majority of people have done well in India also. They are honest also. There are very good politicians, there are very bad politicians. It's all over the world. Don't think India is bad, you hear about bad things. I will end it up with a joke in American Senate. So one senator who was a very, very honest, he said in this house, half the members are thieves, crooks. They are looters, they are agents of the companies. The whole house got up. He should be expelled. He should not be kept. They persuaded him to apologize. He got up. He says, I withdraw my word, but I still say, half the people in this house are honest. They are not thieves. And they don't loot anybody. They are not agents. So it depends upon which side you look at. But I will say, invest by all means, but be careful. India has vast opportunities, but you just can't throw it away. You're earning for lifetime abroad because this is the country here. Unfortunately, government is doing, all governments have done. They are trying to change laws, but speed is so slow. Every small issue is glorified into a big one. So the result is that we remain where we are. So invest, but invest wisely. This is your own country. You will still find majority of people out to help you, but you will also find a few crooks. So it's for you to decide.